Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Alberta Prepper. Well, I had just done a video and realized that I had the camera pointing the opposite way. So, well, that's good. So, I'm going to redo this one and kind of talk to you about homesteading. I think I want to do it in a different way than I did the first video I did that I had to throw into trash. Basically, what I want to talk about is what true homesteading is, the understanding of why you homestead, and is it really for you? If you're a city kid, like I am, homesteading is something that's a foreign idea. It's a romanticized idea, but it's a foreign idea. The romanticized idea is you go out into the forest, and you clear off a piece of land, and you start growing crops, and you build your house, and then you have your family, and everything is there, and you put in your power, solar or wind. You put in your geothermal heating because that's what people have told you is a really good idea. And then you put in your fireplace, and you put in your crops again, and everything is just perfect. Your flush toilets flush, your power stays on, and everyone sings Kumbaya. That's not homesteading. That's 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 the homesteading. That's the homesteading that you would call glamping if you were a camper. Glamping and modern homesteading are the same. We use the technology that we have today to simulate the feeling of being out in nature and dealing with nature. And just like glamping, today's homesteading is filled with technology. Technology that's easily destroyed, unfixable in most cases, and rely on others. You may ask the question, what do you mean? I mean, when you have a flush toilet in your house that goes to a septic system on a homestead, that septic system can carry only so much effluent over its time. Then it must be pumped out. So you call up an HVAC system service, and they come and they pump out your septic tank, and you move on, and you put in the little biomes that will eat most of the stuff and compact it down so that you get more use out of it, but it only goes so far. And you always have to remember that when you're dealing with a septic system, because of the lack of capacity, when you're cleaning yourself up, you can't use the same amount that you do in a city situation, because if you do, you will fill up that septic system pretty darn fast with paper and other products that you may use. That's issue number one. Now, in real homesteading, they would have had what was called an outhouse. A person would go out and dig a hole that would be 6 to 7 feet deep. That would be maybe 3 to 4 feet wide, just big enough that you could climb out of it and climb into it. Not that you'd climb into it once it was being used, but just because you'd be able to climb out of it. You dig that thing down 6 to 7 feet. Then you put the outhouse over top, which was a wooden building, small wooden building that was big enough for a toilet, a roll of toilet paper, if you had it, or a stack of newspapers, which people used in the old days. And once it was full, you'd start digging another outhouse. Now, it would last 6 to 7 months before it needed to be filled. But you would start digging the new hole, take the outhouse off of the old hole, move it back, and fill up the old hole with the dirt from the new hole. Simple as that. Thus the reason why the jokes and stuff that families would play on each other were kind of rude and crude. Sometimes moving the outhouse back a couple of feet to expose the hole in front of the door, so at night when the person would walk out to the outhouse, they wouldn't see the hole and fall on in, which I always thought was kind of a disgusting prank, because why would you do that? But that was humans in the past. Then you move on to water. Well, now you have wells, and you have very deep wells, and these deep wells need special pumps because, first off, they're not like the old wells, again, that were several feet deep and several feet across. Now they're 10-inch holes, 12-inch holes that go deep into the ground and need special pumps. So you have a special pump that's electrical, that can get clogged up from silt and sand, that it can be damaged, that can burn out, that needs replacing. It's not like the old days where you had the hand pumps that would draw the water up, but it wasn't as deep as today's ones are because people didn't test water back then. The water looked clear, it was good enough to drink. And for the most part, our systems were capable of handling that kind of bacteria and that kind of parasitic water. Some of us didn't make it, but the majority did, as you can tell. Once that pump goes down, do you have another pump? Do you have 4, 5, 6 pumps? Those pumps aren't cheap. Those electric pumps are not cheap. And again, you're dealing with electricity. So where is the electricity coming from? If you're on the grid, it's coming from a power plant that when SHTF happens, will it still be there? Will it be able to pump the power out to you? Or will it just collapse after time? How much time would you have? When you're dealing with stuff like solar or wind, how old is the system by the time SHTF happens? And will you be able to get replacements in time before there are no more replacements? You lose electrical power percentage drops significantly after the first couple of years of use of solar. And the same for wind. The turbines only last for so long. Do you have the ability to make a new turbine? Do you have the ability to buy a new turbine when SHTF comes along? When my grandfather came out to northern Saskatchewan in 1911 with his brand new wife, to make a life, to homestead. Their first house was a soddy. A soddy is a house that's made from grass. What you would do is you would cut out slabs of grass from the plains and stack them up, kind of like an igloo, but with dirt. And you do this over and over again until you got to the height that you wanted. And then you used logs to create your roof. And then you put the sod on top of that. And that would be your home for as long as you needed it. And then you dig your well, and then you dig your outhouse, and they'd be in different places. And then you would bring up your water and bring it to the house. That's the reason why they didn't have baths on a regular basis, where modern people may have them 3-4 times a week, or 2 times a week, or 7 times a week. They would have had them once a week, maybe, because water was so precious. You didn't want to waste the water. So everyone would use the same water to bath. It was a tough existence. My grandfather didn't have oxen or horses, so they had to improvise for the first little while. When it came to plowing, he'd pull the plow and Grandma would guide it in behind. Then when they got their oxen and horses, that would be the next thing. And they kept doing it, acre at a time, acre at a time. Even though back then you would get a quarter section for $10, quarter section being 160 to 165, sometimes a little less, of arable land that you could only do so much of it. The rest of it would be grazing land for future cattle, hopefully, because you didn't have the tools to be able to do the full 160 acres with a person, or even cattle. So you do 5 acres, 10 acres, 15 acres as you got bigger. Then came the tractors for farming after World War I, which opened up more. So 50, 75 acres. Then as time went along, more and more. But because of that, they relied more and more on other people's stuff, or knowledge, or abilities to be able to fix the machinery if they couldn't fix it themselves, or they would learn how to fix the machinery. As time went on, the machinery became more and more complicated, harder to use, harder to fix, more technical, to the day now where farmers aren't even allowed to touch their equipment in a lot of cases because it's just too complicated. When you're dealing with those kind of things, when you're dealing with tractors that you can't just fix with a tin can and a rod to make it into your piston, you're in a situation that you're reliant on more people. So you're not really homesteading. You're glamping. You are still at the mercy of others. Not that you don't want to be with others. It means that if the person that you were relying on passes away, you're hooped. Or you are not capable of doing something anymore because of an injury, you're hooped. Homesteading should always be simple, The more simple, the better it is. The more likely to survive long periods of feast and famine. The more likely to create a better life for you and your family. When you go and build stuff that can break down and you need to go someplace that isn't your own territory or your neighbor's territory to be able to pick up the part that you can use to fix it, i.e., lumber or uh, grass or anything like that, then you basically put yourself into a situation that you are at the mercy of others. And that's not a good thing. So often people dream of being homesteaders, but they really don't understand what it means to be a true homesteader, a person of the land. And it takes time and it takes knowledge. It takes a willingness to take major risks, not minor risks. Minor risks are money. Money is minor. Major risks are, will this work? And if it doesn't work, am I going to get into deep? Homesteaders also don't build homes in the way it should be built to create the most efficient and best layout possible, because we still think in modern terms. If you go back and you look at the old homesteader houses, you'll notice that they're very compact. They can have several floors, but they're very compact. And everything is around a central heating area, be it wood fire or coal in some places. The walls are thick, extremely well insulated, same with the roof. Everything is easy to clean because you're going to have to deal with a lot of dust. You're going to have to deal with a lot of wildlife. So everything's going to have to be easily cleaned. Most of today's material needs special cleaning products. Again, what happens when those products disappear? Are you going to be able to clean your counters, your floors, your furniture without damaging it to the point where it has to be replaced? And again, where are you going to replace it? How are you going to replace it? I look at the world as an opportunity, but you also have to know what it is that your limits are, and what the limits of the area that you are going to be living in, and the limits of the materials that you're going to be using. And once you understand that, becoming a homesteader becomes what it should be: a lifestyle, a true 100% lifestyle, not a let's see if I can get my computer into my house kind of lifestyle. Will I have Skylink or Starlink? That's what it's called, or any of that kind of stuff. You need to figure out, will I have the ability to bring water in during the winter? Will I be able to have a clean toilet system, septic system that I can take care of myself without having to worry about bringing in a septic truck? Those are the kinds of things that one has to think about. I know there's lots of preppers out there on YouTube who show you all these fancy things and tell you, oh, I'm living out in here and there. And they have a lot of equipment that needs a lot of parts, that needs a lot of people to create those parts. And when SHTF happens and they don't have those parts anymore, are they able to do those things without that equipment? Or are they hooped? That's the question. Well, I hope that you had a good day. I'm going to have myself a nice breakfast. And you guys enjoy the view. It's beautiful today.